Hello, welcome. Today we are talking about 10 top tips for playing bass in church. We're going to cover some pretty controversial stuff today. There's some stuff that's really going to challenge. You might agree with some, you might not agree with it all. We're going to have a great bonus tip at the end of the video. Make sure you stay tuned for that. But we will get into the countdown and worth watching this one for sure. So check it out. Okay, so starting at number 10, learn the songs. That seems pretty straightforward. You might think, well, that's a dumb one, we already do that. But I mean, like, really learn the songs. Okay, so for some guys, it's just learn the songs. You know, learn the songs before you show up, right? When your worship leader wants to do a new song and says, hey, we're going to cover it at this practice, make sure you go to that practice having already learnt the song. Don't show up and then try and learn it there, because then the whole band is waiting for you. And I know we live busy lives, but so does everyone else. And if everyone else has to wait for you because you didn't learn the songs, that's really just dishonouring. We're straight into our hard truths. You're really just dishonouring people and their time. So make sure you learn the song. But what we're talking about is really learning the song, really listening to it, hearing what the bass is doing and following what the bass is doing. So there's this thing we say about making the song recognisable and familiar to people. So everything we do is about the congregation, right? So for them to sing the song the way that they know that the song goes, we're doing everything we can to make that song sound that same way, right? Now there's room for free stuff and tags and all of that, but when we're doing the song, really we're trying to play it as it is on the track. So that covers all of our don't overplay, don't be playing runs all the time. It's as bad as drummers playing fills all the time, right? They don't need to be there. It takes away from what the song is actually trying to achieve, the feel of the actual song, the way the song was written. Play the runs that are on the track. If you can't play the runs that are on the track, play something similar to the runs, but play them in the same place as they're playing on the track, if that makes sense, the same part of the song, which also means learn the structure of the song, know where the song is going, don't rely on other people for that. Learn the song, inside and out, backwards and forwards. Cool? Let's move on. Okay, number 9 now. Might seem like another obvious one. These will get less obvious as we get further into the video and we count down to number 1 and our bonus tip, but number 9 is follow the drummer, right? It's inherently what we do as bass players, is we follow the drummer. That kick drum, that snare drum, those are the real keys to the drum kit that we're locking into. All the other stuff, the cymbals and all of that, are all extra added bonuses, I guess, but for us, locking into that kick and that snare, particularly the kick drum, there's something pretty special about just the bass and the kick drum being really on together. That said, you don't have to be playing everything the kick plays all the time. You have options as a bass player to play with the kick, to play around the kick, but there's real intention in doing that. Number 9 is follow the drummer, and as a great drummer that I've worked with in the past always said, I'm loudest, follow me. Right, so it's really setting that groove, setting that foundation of everything that happens on stage is the way that the bass and the drums lock into each other. So make sure that you're following the drummer. Cool, let's move on. Okay, so number 8 is play to original technique. So we talked just before about learning the song as the song is played. So that goes for our technique as well. Really what I'm talking about is our right hand technique there. What you'll get guys that prefer to pick, prefer to use fingers, that's me, prefer to slap, right? So playing to original technique means if you're like a pick guy, don't just pick every song because you like using the pick, because again the song doesn't sound the way that it's meant to sound, which is really when we're playing other people's songs, that's really our job, is to make it sound the way it's meant to sound. So not everything is slapped. You know, slapping is fun, but if you slap everything all the time, it really doesn't have the same effect, and it takes away from the feel of the way that song was written, the way it is meant to sound. Cool. So listen to the original track. What's going on? Is it picking? Is it fingers? Is it slapping? And use those appropriately. I'm probably a little bit guilty of not using a pick sometimes when I probably should, when the original track does, and that's sometimes just because it's one song in the whole set and I'm used to just doing it with fingers. Okay, so I'm guilty too, throwing it out there. But yeah, sticking to original technique, that's number 8. Okay, number 7 now, we are working our way down to some of the more controversial topics, you could say, that may get some backs up. Stay tuned. I'm talking about our next tip after this one. Number 7, however, is don't forget to engage. This tip might actually be controversial for some people as well, and it will depend a little bit on the environment that you play in. For us, we're a Pentecostal church, so we are engaging, I guess you could say. There are churches where you might play bass, but you might sit in a back corner somewhere, and everyone in the church just looks at a hymn book in front of them or looks at a screen, and there really is no engagement, and there's not meant to be. Okay, so that's a different story. But I'm talking about if you're in a church where you're meant to engage, and the purpose of engaging, right, this is where we start getting complicated, because people hear this and they start thinking that we think that it's about us. It's not that it's about us, it is 100% about, you think I'm going to say God, it is, but it's 100% about the congregation, right? Okay, and really what it's about is their connection with God, and our job is to just facilitate a space where they can connect with God, because that's what they're coming to church for, right? They're coming to church to worship, to, have that encounter, that connection with God. Our job, and I will say our job when we are on the stage, okay, is not to facilitate our own worship, it's to facilitate the people's worship. We are there to serve, right? And that's where a lot of these things start getting complicated, because we get the idea that we're on the stage and it's all about our worship to God, and you'll hear it said a lot, I'm just playing for an audience of one. Actually, you're playing for an audience of however many people are out there, right? And they are worshipping an audience of one. Cool? So my worship time is when I'm down there, right? Or even when I'm at home. Because, hey, some of us, you're on all the time, right? I've been there. I've done every service for like a year straight. It happens, small teams, that's where you're at, right? And then you just got to make sure that you're still doing it at home and you are having your own worship time, but you're not relying on your time on stage to be that worship time. That's not to say that we're disconnected, right? You are absolutely 100% connected, and you need to be all the time. We'll talk about that more later on, but you've got to recognize that you're there for the people you're serving, right? And you're there for God. It's both. And cool. So right, the point, don't forget to engage, is if I'm there to serve the people, and they're looking to the stage for engagement, they're looking for what am I meant to be doing, basically. Right? People will look to you. Don't forget, there might be people in church today, they've never been to church before. This is their first time, and their friend brought them along, and they're really hoping that things go really well today, and that they get engaged, and then if they see people like just completely switched off in their own worlds, doing their own thing, not looking at anybody, because a trick with bass players, like we tend to look at what we're doing, but we've got to remember, hey, I've got to look out there, I've got to see people, I've got to smile, I've got to look like I don't hate myself or hate my life, right? Like, I laugh with the team sometimes. It's kind of like, we get up there and we sing these songs about, God, and just makes me want to dance, but my face says I want to die, like, because I'm forgetting to smile, and I'm just like, I look like I hate my life, but I'm singing about I feel so alive and all this, Cool. So you get the point, right? Don't forget to engage with people as well as engaging up and down. Both. Cool. Let's move on to our first of the very controversial topics. Next. Okay, so our next topic here is going to be quite controversial. I will say again, it's one that depends a bit on your circumstances. I'm going to throw that out there as a bit of a disclaimer, because people get pretty defensive around this one, I'm going to say. So yeah, bit of a disclaimer. Depending on your circumstance, we'll talk about that. So just stick with me for a bit. But I'll give you the reasoning behind why we do this as a team. But okay, number 6 is ditch the stand. Okay, and you'll see at the moment I've got kind of the stand in front of me. It's not actually a real stand, it's just 2 bits of stuff I stuck together that looks kind of like a stand, but it's not really. But you can see right now I'm trying to communicate to you, and this is that engagement thing. Here I am trying to engage with you, but I've got this thing in front of me it's kind of like just this physical barrier that's just kind of there. We can't pretend it's not there. I'm still looking at you and talking to you. I could be doing this and looking at the stand. That would be worse. I could move the stand to the side. Okay, that's better, right? Now there's no physical barrier here. The stand is off to the side, which is fine until I start doing this and I'm looking at this, because I'm reading everything that I need to say to you right now. So I'm not actually going to connect with you, because I got to read at the moment what I'm going to say, right? Okay, so you get the point. Like, if I've got the stand to the side, the physical barrier is gone, but the fact that I'm having to read off it is still in a way creating a barrier, because we're lacking that engagement. And again, this depends on your circumstances, because that might be the way your church is set up. Again, you might be in an orchestral situation, like where you're up in tiered stuff and there isn't really any need for engagement, right? Okay, in which case the stand doesn't really matter. I do see some churches where worship leaders, vocalists right across the front of the stage have got music stands in front of them. Okay, and then it's like a real barrier, because that's your front line, right? That's the front line of what's happening on stage that people are looking to see what we need to do, but everyone's busy looking at a stand. Okay, so again, yeah, I know this is controversial and people aren't going to like it. Please don't hate me. Please don't unsubscribe. But this is more of just an encouragement and a challenge to just give it a shot. Because you see, the thing is, like, I used to use stands, like when I first started out, when I first came to church, I was using stands because I didn't know all the songs, right? And what happened to us is our pastor came along one day and he just said, we're going to get rid of stands, we're just going to take them off the stage. And he said, you guys have got 4 weeks. I'm not sure if it was 4 weeks, it might have been like 2 weeks, I can't remember. But I just think that because everything at church seems to happen in 2 weeks. They said, whatever it was, let's say it was 4 weeks. 4 weeks, we're just going to get rid of the stands. We're just going to do it, right? And we'll see what happens, right? But he basically was just challenging us to try and do it, you know, see what happens. Because most of our churches, like through our whole network worldwide, generally don't really use stands on stage. It's something that we're encouraged not to do because of that whole barrier thing. And what we discovered, because at first we're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to play without a stand? How am I going to know what the chords are? You know, all those things that you probably think when you use a stand. But what we discovered very quickly is when you start to step out and actually just do it, you just learn songs a different way. So when you're sitting down to learn a song, you know that you're not going to have that music on stage with you. So you know by the time you get to that first practice, you know, when the worship leader wants to do a new song, that you're going to show up having memorized it, okay? Because sometimes I'll still take my notes with me just in case to that first practice, but definitely not on a Sunday. You know, and what happens is as you're learning the song, you're learning to memorize it. So I normally write my own notes, because that's the other point, is that chord sheets are like 95% of the time wrong. Sorry, but 95% of the time, chord sheets, if we're lucky enough to get them nowadays, they're wrong anyway, right? They'll give you some help in some direction, but you'll be playing through. If you're practicing and really listening, using your ear, you'd be like, oh, that chord's wrong. And then you got to work out what it is. So normally I write my own notes anyway, and then so I'll go through those, maybe the first couple of times through when I'm learning the song, and then I'll push them aside, right? And then I'll try and play it by memory, even when I haven't fully learnt the song, and I'll see how far I can get, and then I might be like, oh gosh, I can't remember that, but this is what it was, and then I'll push them away again, right? So you just learn the songs a different way. And where that comes in really handy is then you end up memorising basically all your songs, and then when the worship leader gets up and says, hey, we want to do this random song, you don't have a chord book you got to go through and go, oh no, I didn't put that music on my stand today because we weren't meant to be doing that song, but you're like, I'm pretty sure I know where that starts, and then you find as you start playing it that actually you remember the whole thing because you've converted it to memory in the first place. Okay, so again, it's a situational thing, because of course some churches play more songs, you play more complicated songs, so it depends on all that stuff. If you're doing a whole lot of hymn stuff and you're doing a lot of them in the service, then it's a lot of them to remember. And if your church is set up like where there's no need for engagement, then it's a different story again. But I encourage you to give it a shot. If you're in like a church when you're just on the stage, right, in front of the congregation, and that engagement should be there, I encourage you to give it a go. Even just try one service, you get your song list and you're like, okay, I'm going to learn all these songs and I'm going to memorize them, right? Or even just try to start with, have your music there, over here somewhere, but try not looking at it, okay? It's there if you need it, because if we're completely honest, what we worked out when we started doing this, to be completely honest with ourselves, it was a bit of a comfort blanket, right? To know that was there, it was a bit of security. So taking it away was taking away a bit of a comfort blanket, to be honest. Right, okay, that's probably enough time on this one. I'm trying to deliver this one delicately, because I know there is a lot of pretty heated opinions on this one. Which, you're free to share those down below in the comments, your points of view. But I think I've probably covered you in the situational stuff. It's not about people who don't use stands thinking they're better musicians, right? Because I've seen that in one of the online forums, and the guy posted a picture of an orchestra and saying, oh, we think that we're better musicians than these guys use stands. Of course orchestras use stands because that's the way they learn. Those guys, you can put any piece of music in front of them and they'll play it, right? They don't need to practice it. They will literally play it note for note, the complete score. Okay, and the score is right because the guy who is running the orchestra wrote it. Right, he literally wrote that out for them, for each and every person to play. Complicated. We're getting off track, but yeah, that's a totally different scenario. And I'm not saying it's bad to be able to read music. I can read music, but I just don't do it well I'm on stage. Right, I memorize stuff. And look at the bands you're covering. That's what I always say in these comment things. Look at who are the bands you're covering. If it's like Elevation Worship, Hillsong, Israel Huden. Sometimes in church, maybe like they've got that orchestral thing going on behind them, and some of those guys might be on stands. Who else? Planet Shakers, those guys. Planet Shakers, their team is required to know every song off the top of their head. So anyone can pull out any song, anytime, and bang, they know it. So that's the level of where they set the bar for their team. And I mean that's likely the same for Hillsong, and a lot of those are their own songs though as well. But yeah, anyway, you look at those guys, there's no stands on stage, right? And you look at Planet Shakers and imagine them with if they were all looking at stands, it would be a totally different thing going on when you see them on stage. Anyway, that's enough. Okay, we'll carry on. We'll be a little bit less controversial for the next one. Okay, take a deep breath after that last one. We're up to number 5. Number 5 is you are part of a team, right? You're a part of a team, but do you know what your role is in that team? That's the key of what we're looking at here. We did a workshop once with Israel Huden and Newbreed, and they shared with us, they have this little saying that goes, "The thing of which I am a part is greater than the part I play." Okay, so the thing of which I am a part is greater than the part I play. So although I play a part, that what I'm serving is much greater than just what I do, right? Okay, it's not all about the bass player. Like, we're probably like the least likely people in the band to think that it's all about us. Electric guitarist, gosh. Yeah, I can say that because I play electric as well. But I'm humble. Anyway, team. It's important to know the dynamics of how team work. So if you think about a Sunday, there is always somebody on the stage who is leading, and it's pretty much neither you, unless you happen to be watching this and you're a worship leader. Okay, but during the songs, basically the worship leader is leading. After that, there might be a service leader will get up. They are then leading. Okay, the worship leader is then backing them up. Guess who's backing up the worship leader? Us, right? Okay, backing vocals, of course. That's why they're called backing vocals. And the band, right? So the thing is, the worship leader is really carrying the weight of what's going on. They're up the front there. They're trying to connect with people. They're connecting this way. They're connecting that way. They're trying to work out what's happening out here, what's happening up here, right? They're doing all this stuff. They want to know that their band has got them, that we've got their back, okay? Don't ever get on a stage and think, well, I don't like this worship leader. Get off the stage, right? Let's be blunt, right? Why are you there? Why are you there if you're not there to be part of a team and to serve that team, right? Because the thing of which you are blessed enough to be a part, the thing that you get to be a part of, okay, is much, much greater than the part you play. I'm sorry to say it, but it is. Really they're carrying all the weight, and your job is to back them up, right? If my worship leader shows up and says, hey, this song, I'm really not feeling this song, we need to change it, and I really feel we need to do this song, right? Even if that's a song that I don't know, I'll be like, okay, let's work it out, right? That's, you know, that's when you have the opportunity to come having not learnt the song because you didn't know it was coming, right? Okay, so that's okay. You learn it. Hopefully you got a good enough team to work it out. Hopefully the worship leader happens to play guitar and he knows the chords, and you can work some stuff out. You might have to go and listen to it between like the end of practice and when the service starts, so that you know you've got the rhythms right and that sort of thing. You got that in your head. But hey, we'll learn stuff on the spot because we're serving something that's bigger than us. You know, if you start in that situation, start going, oh my gosh, this worship leader is never organised. Oh man, always does this. It's always last minute, you know. He might be hearing from God. And if he's not, if he is unorganised and, you know, and he is just actually being dishonouring, then that's between him and God. Right? That's, you know, that's his issue to deal with. Our issue is to be humble and to serve. Be ready to do that. You know, if we start getting a stinking attitude about it, we might as well not be there. Right? Because, you know, what are we carrying onto the stage when we're in that space? Not anything helpful, that's for sure. Okay? Our job is supporting. Wayne Huiua, you might not have heard of him, he's kind of reasonably well known in the praise and worship scene. Does a lot of stuff all around the world through churches, workshops and that sort of thing. One of the things he says is, you know, the worship leader is like out there, they're like standing on the edge, you know, carrying everything, and like if we're not there to support them, we might as well just push them off, right? Because you don't want to leave them hanging, right? You know, if we all of a sudden, imagine the whole band stops playing in the middle when they're singing, they're trying to go up and we all go down, you know, and that's why you'll get worship leaders will turn around, you know, because what are they doing? They're going, man, guys, I'm out here, I'm trying to do this thing, I need you guys there to build me up. So when somebody does, you know, like a signal to you, like in a hurry, don't take it to heart, right? Just be like, man, I've got to be there, okay? And the bass particularly, is a powerful instrument. You know why? Because everyone's following the drummer, right? When it needs to build, when it needs to go up, who needs to go up first? The drummer. What if he's not paying attention, right? Right? What if he's not doing his job? He didn't watch his 10 tips on playing drums in church, right? And he's not focused on his leader. He's not keeping an eye on what they're doing, engaging. You got to engage with them as well as the people. You keep an eye on them, what they're doing. But who's the one instrument on stage that can push them? Us, right? The big fat bass. Right, you start playing this thing, the drum's going to go, oh gosh, the bass player's going on. You know, put his book down that he was reading, and he'll go. You push him, he'll go, right? Because he'll hear you. Now the keyboard is, he starts hitting the keyboard out, the drum's not going to care. Guitar starts playing loud, he's not going to get it. He's going to know when you start playing this thing loud, right? So remember, you can push the drummer up. You see go, you go. Right, cool, part of a team. Let's move on. Okay, so number 4 now is kind of closely related to our being part of a team. And again, this one will depend a bit on your situation, but if you can, get an MD. Okay, why I say if you can, you really need to be on in-ear monitors. Just your musos anyway need to be on in-ear monitors to really make this effective. If you've got wedges, it won't really work because everyone will hear what the dude is saying. So an MD is basically one person on a mic. One guy, one person, because it might be a girl, who knows. Normally we put it in front of the keyboard. So the keyboard player will be like, have a mic in front of them where what they say into the mic is fed into the ear of all the musicians, right? So now we've got communication on stage without having to communicate across the stage. Be like, hey, yo, Just like yelling stuff out. G. Yeah. So by being able to communicate that way, it tightens things up. Reminding people where the song is going. Slowing to a finish. That stop's coming up, so no one forgets to stop and keeps playing. Right. So it just tightens things up. Through all the transitions, they can tell people what they're playing. They can count people in. It's just opens up this whole other world. The other thing while we're there quickly, I thought of it when I was shouting out the G. Learn the number system is great for your team. Your team needs to know the number system. We use that a lot, and the reason is when we're calling out chords and we're going G, C, D, E, B. Like when there's a whole lot of stuff going on, all those chords sound the same. Let's be on. B, was that B or D? G or C? Oh gosh. Right? But you use the number system and it becomes 1, 4, 5, 2, 6, 7. So it's just a whole lot clearer. It means you got to know your keys, you got to know where to find those on the neck. I do a video on the number system. You can check that out on my channel. Or if you specifically want that, ask me in the comments below and I will chuck a link. I'll reply to you with a link. Cool? To learn the number system. Real handy. Cool, but yeah, get an MD if you can. Tightens things up. Cool, let's move on to maybe another controversial one. Okay, so this one might be a little bit controversial too. Before we get into it, make sure that you stay tuned for the next tip, because the next tip is going to be one of the most powerful things, probably the most powerful thing that we can do and have as a skill as bass players in church. So make sure you stay tuned. Don't get all offended on me and gap it, right? Don't unsubscribe. In fact, if you're not already subscribed, click subscribe. It's always hard to get the right corner, I'm pretty sure it's this corner. Click that subscribe button and click a like on this video too, whether you like it or not. No, click like if you like it. Don't click dislike though, that's rude. Anyway, number 3 is, you got to stick with me through this one. Number 3 is, you don't need pedals. Right, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, you don't need pedals. You can have pedals, that's fine. And even when I say you don't need pedals, that's a little bit situational again. I have one pedal on the stage when I'm playing bass. First of all, I'll say pedals are fun to own. let's face it, pedals are cool. I've got a complete pedal board, which I use when I play electric guitar. But when I play bass, I use just a tuner. Okay, now there is another job that tuner does, right? So the tuner that I use is a Boss tuner, and Boss pedals are buffered circuits. So what that means is basically over a long run of cable, you get what's called impedance. Basically it dulls your tone down a bit. And what a buffer does is it actually revitalizes that tone a bit, in layman's terms. Okay, so buffers are a good thing. So there is a buffer in that, which is kind of handy. It's not so necessary with bass because you've pretty much just got your cable going to the amp. It's more for electric guitars where you've got your cable going to your pedal board, and then you've got 100 little cables going from one pedal to another, and then you've got another big long cable going out to your amp, right? But it is helpful, right? The other thing that a lot of people use is a compressor, which you absolutely on bass, compression. So the difference for us is we have a compressor at our sound desk. So the way I run my bass in church is I go out of my bass, I go into a DI, right? So that goes straight to the system. I have an amp on stage, which is linked out of the DI and goes into the amp. So the amp is actually just for on stage, right? But my main bass signal goes straight to the desk, okay? At the desk it is compressed. Now the important thing is that we have a desk with a compressor in it, and we have people who know how to use it, alright? If you don't have guys who know how to use compression, or if you don't have compression at your desk, it would be pretty rare these days. Maybe you have people who don't know that you have compression on your desk. But either way, right, then you might want to have a compressor and, you know, add compression yourself and be in control with that. I'm quite happy having our guys in control of compression because I know that they know what they're doing. And yeah, we have it all set up by our guys who are actually professionals that do, you know, sound engineering stuff for a job. They know what they're doing, they set it all up. So any sound guy on any day is just compression is the threshold, basically, is all they're adjusting, right? And most of them won't even do that, they'll just leave it set where other people have it. So, yeah, and I mean, another key is that a lot of our sound guys are actually musicians as well. All of our sound guys at the moment are actually musicians as well, which is good to know. If you're struggling on your team with your sound guys, get some of your musos in there, because we know what we're listening for, right? This is a bit of a sidetrack now, but the thing we find in churches, you'll get like tech guys. They'd be like, hey, I really like computers and I'm really techie. I think I'll mix sound. And then they can work out how to work the desk. Yeah, sure. But they don't know what they're listening for. They can work out how to use an EQ section, but they don't know what they're EQing because they really don't have the ear for what they're doing. You're better off having someone who can hear what they need to hear and then have to teach them how to use the desk than the other way around. So that's just a tip in case you're struggling. I see a lot of comments on online, you know, forums and that where people are really struggling with their sound guys. You know, you can't hear the bass. Like people are being told, oh, hey, I couldn't even hear the bass. Like, and then what happens? You come off feeling like, hey, well, why am I even here? Like if no one can hear me, what's the point of me even coming? You know, I just wasted all this time, right? That is a sound technician issue. There's no two ways about that. There's not, oh, it might just be his taste. No bass is nobody's taste, right? That's not cool. If you can't hear the instruments, same thing on lead guitar. I've come across sound guys who just don't like the sound of guitar, so they just like turn it right down so you can't hear it. And, you know, that's not cool, because that's not, you know, again, that's not serving, that's not honouring the song, that's not making the song familiar so people can hear the song the way it's meant to sound, right? If you're mixing to your personal preference, which is okay if your personal preference is right, like if your personal preference is rubbish, then yeah, then don't be scared to get in there and train your sound guys, right? If you've got someone who's good at it, especially, get them to sit down with them. You know, we do that because we've got the professional guys, so he will actually bring in a multi-track that he's pre-recorded and he will feed that through the desk and get people to mix it. And then he'll say, actually, you need more of this, you need less of that. You know, get people to learn how to hear stuff, right? And you can actually see that video on my channel as well. If you want to see more about being a sound person, or maybe you want to send a link to your sound people, I will chuck a link down there. Just ask me for it, because I'll forget. I'm forgetful. But I still don't need a stand. Crazy. But yeah, I do forget lots of things. Anyway, pedals, you don't, most of the time you don't need them, considering that as long as your situation is right. It's okay to have them. Again, the other thing situationally is if you're using tracks, we use tracks, so all of our synth-based stuff is taken care of. I don't need to have a synth bass. definitely don't need a fuzz pedal. I can see, because I see a lot of guys use fuzz pedals, I can see sort of if you're trying to sound like a synth bass. Yeah, but get a tuner. A tuner is definitely handy. So you, if nothing else, you can cut your signal while you tune, because nobody wants to listen to you tune. Nobody, not even your mum. Nah, she doesn't want to hear it. Okay, just throwing that out there. Yeah, I mean, you can get away without one of those too. You can, tune before you play. I like having it on stage because, especially in the summertime, these low strings get really affected by the heat. They'll expand and they'll actually flatten. Parking and lighting, hot room, yada yada yada. It happens, right? Anyway, let's move on, because number two is really powerful. Okay, as promised, number two, one of the most powerful things that we can do as bass players, and it's probably not what you think it is know when not to play. Right? One of the most powerful things that we can do is just not to play. Right? And this can come back to learning the song, to really listening to it. Listen to when the bass is in, and listen to when the bass stops playing. Right? When it's not there. Okay, and make sure that when it's not there in the song, in the actual recording of the song, that we're not there either, because it's creating a moment. It's intentional, creating a moment in that space. Giving space for other things to move. I work a lot with young people, like youth band type stuff, and we had a guy one year that came along, and he was a saxophone player. He was quite a good saxophone player, but when he first came along, he would just play like the whole time. Like as soon as the song started, bang, he's in there, and it's just saxophone, right? And so I had to talk to him and say, hey, if something's there all the time, it really loses its value. If my backyard was full of gold, alright, and everybody's backyard was full of gold, do you think gold would be worth much? No, because what would it be? It would be dirt, right? Okay, it's only valuable because it's scarce in supply. Okay, so I'm using a brass instrument as an example because it's real obvious. You imagine a saxophone playing the entire song, every song, alright? But you have a saxophone part that comes in maybe just in the chorus or just in a bridge, and you're like, oh, hey, cool, saxophone, hey, right? And it's got real value, So there's nothing wrong with the saxophone unless you play it all the time, right? And the bass is the same. If you play the bass all the time, there's no value to it. It's just something that's just there all the time. But if you're in when you're in and you're out when you're out, then people are going to notice when you're in, right? We had a service a couple of weeks ago where we had a whole bunch of free worship stuff going on after the songs in. We're doing just going through a bunch of tags basically, just flowing through and probably through like 2 or 3 songs, I didn't even play, because that was what was happening. It was a down moment, and so acoustic guitar and keyboard working together. Sometimes the acoustic guitar was stopping and just letting the keyboard. You will have times when actually you just stop everything and people just sing, right? And even the keyboard player will stop and people just sing, and it's great. And then they sing out of key and he starts again. Nah, I'm joking. That doesn't happen. Anyway, but it's knowing those moments, and actually having the confidence just to be like, no, I'm gonna stop here, and then having the confidence to feel when it's building and know when to come back, right? Okay, and that's another key Because if we're awkward coming back after we're stopped, then that loses its power. And then there's different ways of doing that. Sometimes I might play up high. I can't hear my bass at the moment, which is going to be kind of weird, but let's say that's what we're playing. Through the build I might do that. Then we're going back. Or if I'm really keen, go low. That low C. Yeah, that's just a concept. You can play up high and then drop it down. Sometimes just don't even play the build. Let everyone else build it, and then when it goes, then you go. And you go big if you're going to do that. That's the ocean liner thing. The bass is an ocean liner. When it's there, it's there. You're going to know about it. It's there. Yeah, so there's different ways of building and all of that. And a good way to learn those things is to follow what's happening in the songs. Listen to the songs, learn them, right? And get some of those different ideas, some of those different techniques. Cool? But yeah, bass, big, when it's there, it's there. When it's not, it's not. And be prepared not to be there, okay? Because again, you're serving something that is bigger than you, right? Cool? Let's move on to numero uno. Okay, number one. Maybe a little bit controversial again here. Can you tell that I'm trying to spread out the controversial ones a little bit? So number one, you would think that this would be our most important tip. It's not, because actually our bonus tip is going to be our most important tip, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But tip number one is tracks are not your enemy. I know, let that sink in. I know that might have hurt a little bit. You'd be like, but they are my enemy, right? Tracks are not your enemy, but I totally know, if you think that they are, I totally know how you feel, because again, I remember being there. I remember we didn't used to use tracks. Tracks weren't around, right? Nobody used tracks. Not in small churches anyway, back when I was starting out, but I remember, again, the pastor coming, we're going to do tracks. We're going to get one song on track. We're going to do it. Which was helped by the fact that it was a song that wouldn't really work real well without the track, because there was like heaps of synthy stuff in it. That actually made it really hard for us to do as a first song, because it was Get Up by Planet Shakers, and it has this kind of like offbeaty synth at the start, and it threw all our drummers off. No end to start with. But once they got that, all the tracks were easy. Because the thing with track is, now you got to play to a click, right? You literally have to be listening. So again, you're gonna need in-ears really. If you've got really good drummers, you can get away with having just your drummer on in-ears. Like our drummers, I don't need to listen to the click. I listen to the drummer, because I know that he's got it. I know that he's on. But then the click is there. If somebody makes a mistake, something goes skew with, you've got that click to fall back on, which is handy. But tracks are not your enemy, and the thinking behind thinking that they are your enemy is we think that it takes away from what we do. And again, it's not about us, it's about the people that we're serving, and it's about creating the best atmosphere possible for them to have their worship time, right? So it's not about what I do. And here's a newsflash for you. When you work with tracks, you can turn stuff off, right? Because what we think is, we're playing with tracks, we might as well play with the CD now, right? But the way tracks work is every single stem is individual. So you've got like bass, drums, vocal 1, vocal 2, vocal 3, vocal 4, vocal 5. However many vocalists there are, you've got horns and string section and all these different things. So what you do is the ones that you don't want, you turn them off, right? Because nobody wants to hear two drummers or two bass players, so we off, right? Sometimes one of the vocal parts will clash, off, right? Okay, so you're actually in control of what you're using out of the song. You're not just playing a CD and playing to it. It's not Milli Vanilli, right? If you look at professional artists, watch Michael Jackson, some of his concerts. Watch, what's another one I saw? Pink, modern day people, whatever they do. They use tracks. Watch some of the stage show stuff that they do. Pink, I saw one, she's getting all pulled around the stage by all these cables and flipping around, and it's like, it's obvious. Sorry, volume was up. It's obvious she's using tracks. Michael Jackson, same thing. And they're recording their own voice onto the tracks, so they'll often actually have lead vocal on the tracks, which we don't, right? But tracks are not taking away from what you do, they are adding to it, and they're making you sound more professional. They're actually making you more professional at what you do. I don't know about you guys, but we've got a small team. Like, we don't even have electric guitar most of the time, because all of our electric guitar players double as bass players and sound guys, and some of them drummers, and we're trying to cover the basics, right? But we've got tracks, so when it gets to that lead guitar part in the song, it's not all awkward because there's no lead guitar, and that's what's meant to be happening right now. And again, it's still familiar to the people singing it, right? So they can still connect and engage. They don't, because the other thing is, we think it's weird that there's no electric guitarist on stage, but you can hear an electric guitar. Newsflash, they don't care, right? People don't care. Most of them don't even know. They're just like, oh, the song sounds like the way it's meant to sound. They're not like, oh my gosh, I can hear a trumpet playing. That's not where their focus is. That's not even where most of them are skilled. They're not even going to notice what's going on. But they'll notice, man, it sounds good. It sounds full. I can sing to this, right? Because when we strip stuff out too much, what happens, especially if people are not confident singing, the problem is, like, I don't want to sing because there's not enough covering. I was talking about that worship leader being out there on their own. Somebody in your congregation who really wants to worship but is self-conscious about their voice, and maybe not at that, level of maturity to not care. We love those guys that, don't care and sing at the top of their lungs, That's awesome. Hey, who cares what people think, right? But, yeah. It makes it awkward for them, because now I don't want to sing the worship song because everyone's going to hear me and it's going to be weird, right? But if it's nice and full, can I say a little bit of volume helps, right? You get a lot of people in church like, it's too loud. It's too loud. I can't talk to the person next to me. You're not meant to talk to the person next to you. You're meant to worship, right? Yeah. I like a little bit of volume, because I'm one of those people. I'm not a great singer, but man, if the volume's up and the stage is, sound wise is full, good full sound, I'll sing my heart out, right? But if it's real quiet and it's real awkward, I'll be a bit self-conscious, right? Probably not so much in smaller groups, I won't care so much, but in large groups I'll be like, oh gosh, I'm going to make everybody sound bad, right? I'm not that bad. Oh, maybe I don't know. Anyway, waffling on again. Let's get on to this bonus tip. Make sure you hear this one because it's important. Okay, so our bonus tip now, like I said, the most important tip. You'll notice that I've put the bass down, because this one actually has nothing to do with the bass, but it has everything to do with us and our connection. It's really important, and I know it's going to sound cliche, but maybe you just need to hear this again. It's really important that we're connected, that we're engaging the Holy Spirit in everything that we do. It's important that when we step onto that stage that we actually carry something with us, that we're not, just doing stuff on our own strength, because we can get up, we can do it, right? We could get up there, play the songs, do the things, smile, nod, have fun. We could do all that, but if we do that on our own without any kind of engagement, it doesn't carry the same weight, it doesn't carry the same power, and it will affect the very atmosphere that we create. And the whole purpose of us serving is that we're facilitating this atmosphere for people to connect with God, right? That's the sole reason we're there. Okay, so if we're not prepared to connect ourselves first, saying we have in churches, you can't lead people somewhere that you haven't been. All right, so if we're leading people, because people are looking to us to be led, even if you're just the bass player, even if you're just the drummer, people are still looking to you to be led somewhere, because they come in, they don't know where they're going yet, right? They're looking for direction. That's why people are looking at the stage, right? Oh, what are we doing? What are we doing now? Oh, it's worship. Okay, this, that's, people are looking to be led, but you got to know where you're going, right? It's important to carry something. It's important that we pray. It's important that we read our Bible. It's important that we follow the Holy Spirit. That those are just things that we do in our everyday life, right? I was going to say something. I sort of hope I remember to cut this bit out. Oh, I remember our pastor sharing a story. He's quite a witty guy, quite a funny guy, and he was going to a wedding or something like that. That was of like this other religion based. I can't remember what it was. Might have been like Hinduism or something. And he was going in with another lead pastor that heads up our network of churches, and he was sort of jokingly saying, like, "Oh, hey, do you think we have to like sanctify ourselves before we go in or something?" and the other guy turns around and goes, "No, we sanctify the environment when we walk in." Right? He's just, whoa, like, like jokingly, but seriously, like when we walk into an environment, what do we carry? What do you sanctify? What is it that you've got? What do you bring to the table? And if you feel like what you bring isn't much spiritually, then talk to someone. Go and talk to your pastor and say, hey, how do I learn to actually carry some weight in this? And they'll tell you. They'll tell you the things that they've done. Pastors I know don't end up being pastors because they choose it as a career choice. Because they, leave school and go, I think I'm going to be a pastor. I don't think I've met a lot of pastors like that. I don't know if I've met any pastors like that. Most of the guys I know just like wholeheartedly followed God and sacrificed to and being led to a place. A lot of them get asked and they're like, I don't want to do that. But God, you'll keep asking, and you end up where you're meant to be. So thank you for staying tuned. I hope you've got something out of this today. I hope that it's helped you. I hope that it's encouraged you. I hope that it hasn't offended you too much. But I offend you with love. But I hope it has helped. Remember to click subscribe and like, and we will see you in the next video.